And and what that means is that I basically work by helping and supporting new and first-time parents to understand what normal infant sleep looks like, and to help parents to create sleep habits that are manageable and sustainable for them to keep long term. Now, I'm sure many of you are aware, now that you're parents, that when you're a parent of a baby or a toddler and a newborn, they do not sleep like us. And that getting them to sleep and keeping them asleep can sometimes be a lot trickier and a lot harder than we envisage. And what I have found in the industry within which I work is very white and middle class. So a lot of the information and the tips and advice that will help your baby to sleep don't feel very inclusive. And as a black and brown parent myself, even for me, as somebody who understands what a lot of the advice and the information about baby sleep is about there, it often doesn't feel like it applies to us. So for me, the work that I do, I love it because I feel like I bridge two worlds. I obviously have my own cultural background and experience. You know, I'm a Black mother, I'm Jamaican, I'm a second generation Jamaican. So there's very much a cultural aspect that I am aware of when I'm thinking about parenting and sleep for a person who looks like me. But the industry within which I work is, like I said, is very white and middle class, and they have their own approaches to sleep as well, and they have their own thoughts, opinions, and feelings when it comes to sleep. So for me, the work that I do is very much about empowering parents to understand what normal sleep looks like, empowering parents who look like us to understand that, you know, a lot of what we learn about sleep does apply to us, and it's all about tweaking the information that we're receiving and understanding and picking the sense out of the nonsense as well. So when I say that, for example, I'm thinking about things such as co-sleeping and cots. Now, like baby sleeping in cots is very much I don't want to say it's a Western construct, but it is very much something that people in the US and the UK think is important. However, when you look at sleep globally and you look at parenting globally and you look at the global majority, i.e. people that look like you and I, cots are very much a new construct. They're not something that our children relate to, and sleep is very much a family experience. So for me, it's very much about helping and supporting modern Black and brown parents who live in the UK and the US, the Western society. It's all about taking the information that you're receiving and tweaking it and refining it so that it fits in with your culture, your lifestyle, and how you choose to parent. So for me, it's very much about parenting your way, but taking the science and the facts so that you understand what's normal, and shaping sleep in a way that is in line with your parenting and your cultural background, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense. And I love that, Charmaine. That's what I love about you so much. Not only that we share some of the same training. I'm not a sleep consultant, but our nursery nurse training from way back in the...
Hey. Nursery nurses, hey.
Nursery nurses, I love that about you, but also I love this whole thing about, making sure that we're kind of operating within our kind of cultural norms and respecting our cultural practices. And, when we try and do things that are totally out of our kind of cultural norms, it doesn't always work for us. So the whole thing about keeping babies separate, and this is not to say that I'm doing down people that keep their babies separate in a cot or in a different room. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that when we operate in a way that's not kind of within our fiber and almost our genetic makeup, sometimes it just doesn't feel right and it doesn't quite work for us. So I love that you kind of bring in the aspect of, look, we have to acknowledge that, yes, we have the science, and science is really important, and we've made strides in all different areas of life and society because of science, but also there's tradition, also there's culture. And if we ignore those things, it's at our peril. So Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. And also, let me add to that as well, Lorna, is that when we are parenting in a way that doesn't feel right to us, whether it's a cultural thing or even if it's just a thing where you've read something and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that, we often don't think about, I don't want to get woo-woo here, but the vibe and the energy. Our children are energetically linked to us. So when we're doing something that doesn't quite feel right and we're not sure and we're not confident in it, our kids pick up on that and they're like, they don't know what it is that they're feeling, but they react to that, if that makes sense. So for me, it's all about instilling confidence in parents and saying to them, these are the facts. Now you take the facts and tweak it so that you feel comfortable, so that you're parenting in a way that suits you. Because when parents feel confident, our children feel it and they react accordingly. When we as parents don't feel confident, our children feel that. And when they don't feel safe in space with us, they just do things to keep us close. They cry, they get upset, they fuss, they misbehave. And we just think, you're not behaving. Why are you not doing that? They're just responding to that inner dialogue that we have in ourselves that says, this don't feel right, I'm not confident in it. And they react to that. So this is why I'm really passionate about what I do, because as a mum, I know when I feel confident in my decision, my child reacts and responds to that. Even if they don't like it, they react and respond to it very, very differently to when I'm not 1,000% sure if what I'm doing is the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And before I throw the floor open for questions, Charmaine, one thing I wanted to kind of bring up, and I'm not sure if I did it last time as well, is that it feels to me, and from my experience, especially as a Black mom, a grandma, Black doula, working with Black families, all the rest of it, it feels like there's a pressure within our communities for newborn babies to sleep through, before they're ready to sleep through. And that's for a load of reasons, current reasons, historic reasons. You know how our moms grafted, right?
Yes. To be fair, that pressure isn't just in our community. To be fair, that pressure is felt by every mum.
Right.
And I think the reason for that is because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of information that says your kids should be doing this, your kids should be doing that, but none of it is actually based on evidence or scientific proof, or based on what's actually normal. When you look at what's actually normal for your kids in compared to the advice that we're given on what our kids should be doing, there's some big differences, So this is why I love the work that I do, because I can often say to parents, the advice that you're getting is not based on fact. Here are the facts. Here's the evidence. This is what I have learned from my experience of working with parents. And this, and here's what works. Combine those three so that it fits in with you, because what works for me might not work for you. What works for that mum might not work for that mum. So it's all about taking the information that you've got and tweaking it for your own self, because while there are, scientific norms and, we're all human, so we're all kind of run off the same sort of stuff. Every family is different, every culture is different, every household is different, and every parent and child is different. And there is no shame or there's nothing wrong with doing things your way. If it works for you, then it works,
Yeah, love that. Thank you. All right, so let's go around, and who wants to start with a question? Mamas, who's got a question? Unmute yourself. Cleo?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Cleo. Yeah.
Hi. Nice to see you again. I think I came on the first one that you did, or the one before. So nice to see you again.
Okay. Lovely.
So you actually gave me advice the last time about,
I did.
Yeah. So
was it about the 4-month regression?
Pardon?
Was it about the 4-month regression? Your little one was quite new, wasn't she?
I think it was to do with sleep in general. I was a bit stressed about the co-sleeping situation. She wasn't sleeping in her cot. But all of that went out the window. She's nearly 10 months now, and she's been sleeping in my bed, and I've been getting sleep, and everyone's happy. So
hey.
I just let go of all of that. But obviously, a lot of family members are like, because I'm still feeding her through the night. I'm still exclusively breastfeeding her. She eats, but not really. I'm kind of a bit because obviously she's coming to a year now, and I actually do want to stop breastfeeding soon because I need to go back to work and stuff. But I'm a bit scared about, because she feeds to sleep most of the time. There'll be like the odd occasion where I feed her and she's still awake and she latches off and then falls asleep like that, but that's very rare.
That's quite good though. That's a great sign.
Yeah, I understand that's progress, because she kind of latches off and then falls asleep. I can see her doing that, but she doesn't take a bottle at all. She's never taken a bottle. She doesn't take a dummy. So in terms of getting her to sleep, I have no idea of how the heck I'm gonna like do it. I don't know. I've been looking at weaning her off. Like during the daytime, I can see how it would be a lot easier to wean her off, because you can keep busy. You can I can give her to family members, but it's just at night. I've been the only one to put her to sleep for her whole life, and I don't want to feel like I shot myself in the foot, because I've enjoyed the experience, but now I'm just a bit panicky. I don't know how to. Yeah.
So are you concerned about other people putting her to sleep, or how you'll get her to sleep without the breast?
I want to say both, because if I'm honest, I'm very eager for my partner to help with bedtimes. That's really the main reason. I would like some of my evenings back, because I have a business that I've put on hold, and I really, when she's asleep, is the best time for me to, but she's still waking up quite a lot, so it's stop and start for me, and then I just get tired and I end up not doing anything. So
I get you.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, to answer the first part of your question, in terms of someone else getting her to sleep, this is a very big concern that a lot of breastfeeding mums have. They always think, if I'm not around, no one else is going to be able to get her to sleep. Our kids are actually very amazing in that if someone else is helping your little ones get to sleep, she subconsciously knows they don't have the equipment to give me the boobie. So you'll probably find that while she's getting, like, for example, if your partner wants to set her to sleep, she might get annoyed and irritable with him because he doesn't have the boob, but she's also aware of the fact that he doesn't have it. So most of the time, the irritability and the fussiness comes from the fact that they're tired and they're used to a particular way of going to sleep. But you will find that it is actually a lot easier for someone else to get your little one to sleep than you will without the boob. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So don't panic about your partner not being able to get her to sleep. He's got to find his own way. What you'll find is that, especially in childcare as well, because I've worked in childcare and I've had many parents say to me, they only go to sleep on the boob. You're never going to be able to get them down for a nap. And then after they've left them with their child with me for a week, their child goes to sleep fine. You'll often find a child who is used to being boobs to sleep will find another way of settling to sleep. And it's actually a lot easier for them to settle to sleep without the boob when it's someone else, because they know it's not mummy.
It's not.
They don't have the equipment. So in that respect, it's a lot easier. You'll probably find it's way easier for your partner to get her to sleep than you do. And when it comes to you getting her to sleep now, as crazy as this sounds, set a date for when you want to minimize it. And then start talking to your daughter about what you're going to do. So you could say to her, like, right, in a couple of weeks, mummy's going to not feed you to sleep anymore. I'm going to feed you the boobie. If you get tired or if you wake up in the night and you want boobie, you can have it, but you're not going to have it to go off to sleep. And tell her what you're going to do. Now, as crazy as this sounds, it is really good to do this, because we often think because our children are non-verbal, they don't understand. They are very, very good at understanding. And I have found that if you're preparing your little one, even if it's just like 7 days ahead of what you're going to do, when you then don't offer them the boob, it's not this huge shock because you've told them what they're doing. They'll probably protest, because, when crying is our child's, key way of communicating. It's the only way that they have. And when they're tired, it's going to be their go-to. But if you've been preparing her for this change, when it happens, you can say to her, remember, mummy said, we're not going to boob to sleep. I'm going to feed you to sleep. But when it's time for you to nod off, mummy's just going to rock you and hold you, and then do that. When I was training to be a nursery nurse, my lecturer always used to say to me, when it comes to children, say what you mean and then mean what you say. So tell them what you're going to do and then do it. So honestly, don't overthink it. A lot of the time we're panicking and thinking, how are our kids going to cope? But if you're saying to her, this is what we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks, and then on the day you're like, right, today, darling, tonight, mummy's going to feed you, I'm going to rock you, I'm going to cuddle you, but when it's time to go to sleep, mummy's not going to booby you. If you wake up in the night and you get upset and you're scared and you want booby, you can have it, but we're not giving you the booby to go to sleep. And you'll probably find that your baby will surprise you with how well they cope with that change. So I'm not saying that there's not going to be a protest, but what I'm saying is that don't underestimate the power of preparation, you know?
Okay.
And often because you've been doing it.
Sorry, go on.
Now, often because you've been doing it for a couple of weeks ahead, you'll probably get to the night and be like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. Your child is going to surprise you. Trust me. Because you've prepped her and you've told her what you're going to do, when it gets to the stage of you doing it, because you've told her what you're doing, she's probably going to react really, really well to it. So again, don't panic, but know that if you've prepared her, she will handle it a lot better than you expect. Okay? So what was your question that you wanted to add?
My question is, because she's not eating like meals, she's not a big eater, she'll like pick and stuff, and then some days she literally doesn't want to eat anything. I'm just a bit like, I don't know when to stop giving her the boob because she's not eating anything else. So I don't know the difference between comfort and like her needing a full belly before
and
she goes to bed. Yeah.
What I would say is maybe not wean her completely. So like sometimes I say to parents, do something like, if they wake up in the night and you think she's hungry, don't offer, don't refuse. So what that means is that if she wakes up in the night and you can get her to sleep without the boob, great. But if it's very obvious that she's hungry, give her feed. The reason why I say that is because with babies and toddlers, when they're growing and they're developing and they're going through developmental milestones, their brain is expanding, and the growth that their brain is doing requires energy, which often means they're going to get hungry. Annoyingly, in the summer, when it's light and bright or whatever, and it's hot as well, they're just not fussed about food, which means that us parents are like, oh my God, they're not eating. They make up for it in their milk intake. My nephew, who's about to be 1 next Friday, has been giving me and his mum hell. He won't eat a thing. But if you give him the bottle or the boob, he guzzles it. And, you know, when they get hungry, they eat. So what I would say is offer the foods, offer the solids, offer the boob throughout the day, lots and lots throughout the day. And then when it gets to nighttime, think, don't offer, don't refuse. So if she wakes and you can get her to sleep without offering it, great. But if it's very obvious that she's hungry, she wants it, don't withhold it. Because sometimes, you know, if they're hungry, they're not going back to sleep. That's what I've found. So, you know, you're a mum, you know when it's genuine hunger and you know when it's comfort. So I would say gauge it, see what it is. And when she's had a good feed, there is no harm in taking the boob out of her mouth and then rocking her back to sleep like that. So don't ever see you offering the boob as a failure, because they're still very young. You know, they're still very young. What I will say is when you go back to work, you might find that the increase or the demand for night feeding increases. And that's because she's making up for that lost time with you during the night. It's very, very normal. Again, it's nothing you've done wrong. But a lot of mums think, oh my God, I'm ruining things. And it's not. They're just making up for that time that they don't get with you at night.
Okay. And sorry, one last question. I'm so sorry.
Go for it, girl.
So my partner was suggesting to give her like milk before bed in a bottle to see if she'll try and use that before bed to go sleep. Would you say that that's a good idea? Or no, she doesn't take the bottle currently,
worth a try.
but she's really good with her sippy cups and stuff, so we were thinking of getting like you know, like a baby milk or some sort of something, I don't know,
it's worth a try. It might replace
it, but
it might be a good replacement. So that is actually a good idea. Don't panic if she doesn't like it. Keep offering it. Just keep offering it, because you might find for the first month she has zero interest in it, and then all of a sudden it's her go-to. So, you know, keep offering it, but it is definitely worth a try. What I will say, don't be upset if she doesn't suckle to sleep using that. It's quite unlikely that she's going to prefer that to the boob. You know, the boob is lovely and squishy and it's attached to mum. Cup is plastic and it doesn't feel so great. So don't be upset if she doesn't take to it, but still offer it. The reason why I say that is because in time she'll come to associate that with sleep instead. So it's a great substitute, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because she's actually a great sleeper. She loves her sleep. Like as soon as it hits that time and she hears the lullaby music, she's like, get me to sleep. So I know that she will sleep. It's just like getting there. But thank you very much.
What I will say to add to that as well, sometimes we find that increased sleep pressure can help with taking away sleep association. So what I mean by that is that if you know she typically goes to sleep at like 8 o'clock with no trouble, and you're thinking, right, tonight's the night I'm going to take the boob away, settle her at like 8, 10, because that increased amount of tiredness sometimes works in your favor. Sometimes they're so tired they don't even care that they don't have what they want. Does that make sense? So sometimes just 10 minutes though, not too late, because some parents are like, oh, half an hour, and then it's just, they're too tired and they just want what they want. So sometimes just having that little extra bit of sleep pressure can sometimes help to aid the falling asleep process.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, my love. It's lovely to see you again though.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Oh, Charmaine, your knowledge is just vast. I'm just
like
a sponge here, just soaking it all up. That's wonderful. And actually, what you said about preparing your little ones, you mentioned that last time you were on, and I use that technique with my grandkids when I stay over and have them for a couple of nights. Because they were the kind of kids, you know, how kids do, you know, one more kiss, grandma, one more.
Yes.
One more
delay tactic.
You know, 12 hours later, we're still kissing and cuddling. And so, like you said, I've explained to them, right, you know, that has a story now. And then, you know, the last hug and kiss, I say, right, and this is the last hug and kiss I'm giving you until the morning time. And it works a treat.
It does. Even if they don't like it, because you said what you're going to do and then you're doing it, it builds up that trust. And as much as kids don't like boundaries, well, they don't like boundaries that don't work in their favor. However, children like to know this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
And if they're used to something happening and it differs, it actually throws them and it makes them feel insecure, which can actually make it harder for them to get to sleep. So don't feel like putting a boundary in place is a bad thing. Children need boundaries, you know, and you can lovingly keep them in place.
It makes sense because I've started to see that she does actually understand what I'm saying, because I thought at first it was just like tone behind what I'm saying, like she was picking up on the energy, but I've tried saying it in a calm, like saying no in a calm way, and she'll stop.
They like, get it. They are so clever. And
I tell her,
really
it's interesting, very interesting.
And that's the good thing about babies is that they understand the nuance. They get the tone, they get the word. They also know when mummy's not playing. Like, you know, if you're like, no, I'm not joking.
Yeah, I've got the look down.
And like, even with my nephew, I struggle with my nephew because it's like, I don't know if you guys have watched my stories, but my nephew at nap time is a nightmare. Like, I often say to him, like, you're making me look bad because I can't get you to nap. But the reason why I can't get him to nap is because he gives me a hard time and then I laugh. So he doesn't take me seriously.
Yeah, it's so hard not to laugh.
He doesn't take me seriously. But with my own child, I can be serious till the cows come home and she gets it. But yeah, with my nephew, I find it hard. So remember, communication isn't just about the words we're saying. It's the non-verbal, it's the facial expressions, it's the tone, it's everything, you know?
Okay. Lovely. All right. Next question. Who's next? Unmute yourself, whoever wants to go next. Charlene, Ibn, Steph, Leslie.
Don't be shy, ladies.
Charlene.
Hello.
Hi, Charlene.
Is this a question on techniques on putting the baby to sleep and how to put her down? I find she sleeps fine in the night time. She probably wakes up about twice. And then just during the daytime, she can sleep in my lap for hours, but it's just me as soon as I put her down, she's up. So, yeah.
Yes. How old is she?
4 months now.
Oh, bless her. Right. So we're talking about day sleep.
Yeah, so I do breastfeed. So she falls asleep on my breast, or if I'm giving her a bottle. But it's just putting her down. If there's any technique, because I used to put her, you know, when you put her head in your arm and her body on my, her head in my hand and her body on my arm.
Like this, yeah. Hold on, let me get my baby doll, 1 sec. So you do it like this, right? Oh. a baby doll. So like you'll have her like this and then you'll put her down like that. Am I right?
Well, more, yeah. So she used to sleep fine when I used to put her down easily when she used to swing on my arm. So her face was head down. So I used to put her down fine, but now she's heavier. I can't put her down like that. So she just wakes up. So I was just wondering if there's any arm technique or any way that I could put her down where she can sleep for longer. I've only just given her
firstly, what I want to say is the reason why she naps really long with you when you hold her is because she knows where she is, it's comfortable, she's warm, she knows she's in mummy's arms.
Yeah.
And I find with babies, when they are sleeping, especially if they come to the end of a sleep cycle and they're ready to transition into another, they'll either carry on sleeping and won't wake up, or they'll wake up and look and see what's going on. And if they like where they're at, they'll carry on sleeping. If they don't like it, they'll wake up, or they'll wake up because they've got a smelly nappy or whatever. So it seems to me, I find with babies under 6 months, they're very short nappers anyway. So it could just be that because she's not on your person, she's just naturally waking up after a sleep cycle. Very natural and normal, nothing you're doing wrong. And I find that after 6 months, they tend to nap for longer anyway. The other thing that it could be is that she might have gone through the permanent change in sleep, which often occurs anytime between 2 and 6 months, but typically occurs around 3 months. That permanent change is also known as the 4-month sleep regression. The annoying thing about that is that it often, I don't want to say it changes how they sleep because it does, but you'll often find that if they were really easy to settle before, they're a little bit more sleep sensitive now, but it's usually just temporary. So I'd say it's probably not the technique that's the issue. What I would say is maybe hold her to sleep for like 10, 15 minutes, just until she's completely relaxed. So say, for example, you've got her in your arms like this.
Yeah.
Lift the arm up. If it drops like that, you can usually put her down fairly easily. If she's kind of flailing or it's very obvious that she's not fully asleep, don't put her down just yet.
I normally wait till
that's what I say. So it's probably not the technique, it's probably just that she might have gone through this permanent change in sleep. Or if it's not that, it's just that babies' brains are basically designed to keep them safe. When they're in arms with us, they are safe. So they're like, I'm going to sleep for as long as I like. I'm good. But when they're not in arms, as far as they're concerned, it's not that they're not safe, but they're like, I'm not as safe as I would be if I'm in mum's arms. Does that make sense?
Like you said about the partner, she'll sleep for hours, or he could put her down easily. It's just me. So,
do you breastfeed?
Yeah, I'm just breastfeeding.
She smells your milk. She smells your milk. When you're putting her down, she's like, I can't smell it anymore. What would be useful is if you've got like a muslin or something that smells of you, put that down with her, because sometimes the lack of smell is what she's noticing. So she still smells it. It might be a great way of tricking her into thinking you're still with her. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I did put my top. My friend did say put your clothes in or something next to her, or rub Teddy on you. But,
I often tell parents, get like a really small muslin, like mum's, and literally stuff it around your bra for the day, because then it will smell of you, it will smell of milk. And if you leave that near her, or I often say to mums, use it as like a spit up rag. So, like we try and save the cot, we don't have to change the cot every day. And we'll put a muslin underneath the baby's head to like catch deposits. I will say to mums, use that as their spit up rag, because it's so close to them, they can smell it, it's infused with your fragrance. And it just, it just gives them that added layer of comfort and security.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure, sweetheart.
Another great question, another great response, Charmaine. That's a really common one, isn't it?
It is. It's really common, very common. A lot of parents always think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. But you're really not. You're not.
And we try and do all those ninja moves, and don't breathe, hold your breath. And then
and also as well, a lot of babies are very sensitive to being lowered down, this sensation. Yes. And then it instigates the whole moral reflex. So I often say to mums as well, sorry, Charlene, I should have added this. Sometimes transferring sideways is easier than transferring down. So if you can lay down on a bed and settle her to sleep and then transfer her sideways, that often works a lot easier than the lowering.
Is his back or into her bed? I think it's me putting it that way. Maybe I should put her something my level.
Yeah, sometimes even if you've got if you're in in bed with her and the cot's at a lower level and you're going down slightly. Sometimes that works better, but I find going from this, some sensitive kids it really does wake them up. So it's nothing you've done wrong. It's very common, common in fact.
She doesn't cry when she wakes up, so I was thinking she just ramping with me.
What I would say, she doesn't cry. Carry on putting her down. She might just go back to sleep on her own. You never know.
Yeah, I'll just leave her.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
I'll try that.
It's worth a try.
Lovely. We'll try hard. Oh, bless her. Look at her.
She's a cutie.
Gorgeous.
Look at her.
Oh. All right. So Eben, Steph, Leslie. Hey girl.
Hello. Hi. I had a question about my 7-month-old. She doesn't really nap during the day. Like, she's just bad at it. It's like maybe just she naps twice and then it's just 1 hour. But she's recently started sleeping through the night, which is good. She does wake up sometimes in the middle of the night. So I'm thinking, is the shorter nap in the day now what's leading her to sleep in fully in the night? And should I just not be worried? Also, the second question I have is, she just cries a lot before we put her to sleep, even though she's full. I don't know if it's overtiredness. She just like cries, and then it's taking 1 hour of settling before she finally sleeps.
Oh, okay. So it takes an hour of crying before she goes down to sleep?
About 30 to 1 hour. So, the morning, all of that's mixed.
Is this before nighttime sleep or before every nap that she does this?
Before every nap.
Okay. Because it could be one of two things. It could be either that the timing of the naps is a little bit early and she's not tired yet, or maybe it's that she's a little bit overtired, so she's getting annoyed because she's struggling to nod off. Or it could be something that a lot of people consider, but quite a few babies like to not cry, but make a lot of noise before they go off to sleep. It's called a tension releasing cry. My daughter used to do it, and when she was a newborn, it would be a cry. By the time she got to 6 months, it turned into a sigh. And what I mean by that is that if you find that it starts off quite, but in the intensity really goes, sort of gets lessons and lessons to the point where she goes to sleep, that would lead me to think, that's tension releasing. And I would just say, support her through it. Don't let it alarm you, and know that in time it will stop. Because it is something that is quite common. And if you're not used to it, you're thinking, is she in pain? Is she upset or whatever? But if you've changed the nappy, she's got a full nappy, you've created the right environment for her to go to sleep, and you feel like you've got the timing right, it could just literally just be her way of, releasing that last bit of energy and tension before she nods off.
I see. Makes sense.
And in terms of the day naps, what I would say is that daytime naps are really, 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 really tricky to kind of get right. However, if you find she's sleeping through the night and it's not impacting night sleep, don't even worry about it.
Okay.
Like, nap on the go, don't stress yourself out, because if it's not impacting night sleep, then it is really not something you need to concern yourself out. There is a lot of misinformation out there that says babies need to be napping in a dark room, they shouldn't nap on the go, they shouldn't nap on the buggy, it's don't sleep. It's all rubbish. Sleep is sleep, whether it's on the go, in your arms, on your back, in the bug, wherever. If they're sleeping, they're happy. Okay. But in terms of the cry, if you find it starts off quite high pitched and the intensity decreases as she gets tired, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It sounds like it might just be her way of settling herself. Support her through it. Don't leave her to cry on her own. I would never, ever encourage that. But it sounds to me like that's just her way of kind of like just getting rid of that last little bit of energy before she goes to sleep.
Of energy. Okay, fab. Thank you. Yeah, that helps. Sometimes she does that, and then other times it's just constant cry. I think the other issue I've had is what the other lady mentioned in terms of whenever my partner puts her to sleep, she just is good. And me, it's like, I don't know, she's just smelling milk. I can't put her to sleep successfully.
We have a saying in Jamaica, it's called dupping over for frightened, yeah? And it's almost like with daddy, she's like, I better not mess around with daddy because daddy's not playing. Whereas with mummy, they can run rings around us. It is what it is. What I will say is children always save their worst behavior for their parents. And it's usually, if your little one is acting like a little for you, but is an angel for everyone else, I often say that is actually tantamount and a great sign of the connection that they have with you. They offload and they save their worst feelings and their worst behavior for us. So don't take it personal. It's a sign that you're actually a fantastic mother and the bond between you is brilliant.
Fab. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Charmaine.
My pleasure, my love.
So reassuring. This is lovely. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Steph, my love. Steph, over to you.
Hi, I'm
Hi,
actually breastfeeding at the
Steph.
moment. Hi. So my daughter is 8 weeks today. And
Congratulations.
thank you. So it's all about the sleeping, I guess. During the day, I have no problem because there's always someone normally around that holds her. But at night, like the other ladies explained, I've tried the t-shirt. I haven't done the muslin, so I'll try that. But when I put her down to sleep, even if I've had her in my arm for a good half an hour, she will stay in, like, where she's sleeping in the Moses basket at the moment, for about an hour, and she will wake up. And then she'll want to be carried, or and then she'll go back to sleep. We'll hold her again, and then she'll go back into the Moses basket for an hour again. But she doesn't seem to go any longer than an hour at a time. So I have now put her in the bed with me, which I know people said is like a bad routine.
No, that's not bad. That is not bad. Don't let anybody tell you that. It is the most natural and instinctive way to settle our babies to sleep. Don't let these companies and Western society tell us that it's not the thing to do. There are safe ways you can do it. So not to butt you, but if you want to ways on how you can co-sleep safely, the best place to look is the Lullaby Trust. They've got lots of resources and information on how you can reduce the risk of SIDS and still co-sleep and bed share. But you can safely bed share. Please don't let anybody, especially our health visitors and our GPs, they are, I don't want to say they don't know their stuff. Their knowledge on sleep and baby sleep is so limited. They're general practitioners, so they've got to cover, everything. But when it comes to baby sleep, I'm actually shocked at how little they do know. A lot of health visitors now are actually getting a lot of sleep training now. My mum was a health visitor, she's retired now, but then only now getting the sleep information that they need. So if you do have a health visitor that says to you, oh, you shouldn't co-sleep, you say to her, excuse me. Actually, there is scientific evidence and proof that suggests that an exclusively breastfeeding mother can safely co-sleep and bed share. So please don't tell me that. Don't let them scare you. But in terms of what she's doing, it's actually very, very normal. It's natural. It's nothing you've done wrong. It sounds to me like she's coming to the end of a sleep cycle and kind of checking out the surroundings. And then she's like, actually, I'm not in mum's arms. I don't like this. The fact that she can sleep for an hour in her cot is fantastic. Keep at it, keep practicing, because you'll find the hour will become an hour and 10 minutes, it will become an hour and 20 minutes, and before you know it, she'll be doing longer and longer stretches. So don't feel like you're doing anything wrong. If you co-sleep, that's actually a great way of showing her you can sleep for longer stretches, because I'm right here with you. So again, don't overthink it. She's still very, very young, and it's actually brilliant that she can do an hour in a Moses basket by herself. I have a client right now whose baby is, I think he's 10 weeks. He won't sleep except in arms at all. As soon as we put him down, he wakes up. We've been doing a lot of work to kind of get him used to sleeping independently. But I think mummy is very, very anxious as well. So don't panic, don't stress. You're doing all the right stuff. It will come in time. Keep putting her in the Moses basket. I know it's really stressful at night when you're only sleeping for an hour, but do it during the day as well. Put her in her Moses basket, put her down in her cot, even when she's awake as well. Talk to her, play with her, just to show her that, not being in arms is not scary and that she's okay. So, practice is what I would say to that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll try to put her in the cot, in the Moses basket or the cot during the day as well. That's really helpful. Actually.
During the day, I just want to say, you're probably only going to get about 20 minutes out of her during the day when she's awake, because they like to be in arms. But my point is that the more you practice and the more she learns that it's not a scary place to be, she'll get really, really good at it. And eventually, hopefully she'll be there all night long.
Thanks.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure.
That sounds great. And so I think the kind of overarching theme, Charmaine, is that as parents, as mums, we're not doing anything wrong. Right?
We're not. And do you know what I found as well? All of the things that we instinctively do that soothe and calm and help our babies to sleep are all the things that Western society say are a bad habit. And they're not. They're things that you do instinctively without even thinking. They're natural and normal. So don't let mainstream media make you think that the things that come naturally to you that are instinctual are wrong. They are not. They're the exact things that we should be doing with our babies.
Absolutely. And so, Charmaine, just 1 second, one little cough. Tell us, so you're a sleep coach, you offer one-to-one sessions. If parents in the group or mamas here today wanted to contact you and maybe book a service, can you just kind of talk us through the kinds of things, the kind of work that you do with families, either in person or online? Kind of talk us through what you do and what you offer.
Okay, well, I used to work as a night nanny, in that I would go and support parents who were literally in the trenches of sleep deprivation and were like, I cannot cope. And I would just go in and offer them respite. I've scaled that right back now, because I did that for 22 years and I'm tired. However, I do offer help and support in parents, in that I do one-to-one calls, one-off calls, or we do a series of calls, in that we'll sit down and I'll often say to parents, right, you tell me what your child's doing now, I'll tell you what's normal, and I'll show you how to get from where you're at to where you would like to be in the most gentle, respectful and quickest way possible. So I can do that via a one-off call, or I do it through a series of calls over a period of weeks. I have packages where parents actually have access to me via WhatsApp. So literally in the moment, they can be like, it's all going wrong, what do I do? And I send them voice notes. I've had parents message me at 4 a.m. and asleep, and I wake up and respond to that message. So it's all about just basically being that village that unfortunately is taken away from us by the pandemic, by where we live, by location. It's just offering that ear of support that understands your cultural background as well. So I get a lot of white clients, but I get a lot of Muslim clients. I get a lot of Caribbean and African clients, purely because they know that I won't judge them for what they do. They know that I understand where they're coming from. And they also know that I understand the pressure that we get from our families as well. So for example, when I first had my daughter, I had been working as a night nanny and a sleep coach for about 3 years at that point. And she was a very calm and relaxed baby. So I would get in the habit of helping her to fall asleep on her own. I wouldn't rock her to sleep if she was calm. My mum told me I was cruel for that. Now, had I been somebody who was, didn't know what I knew about sleep, or was, easily swayed by opinions, I would have really taken offense to that. But because I knew she's calm, she's happy, and I'm actually taking this opportunity to teach her, I was able to be like, no, mum, it's fine. My mum is so grateful that I did that, because it meant I could go back to work at 12 weeks and leave my daughter at home with her. I've also sleep trained, I've also supported sleep for everyone in my family, so that everyone knows and understands what normal sleep looks like. And when it is going peak tong, they know how to kind of preserve it and return things to normal without sacrificing our own sanity and our own sleep. So for me, it's very much about providing support and being a friendly, non-judgmental ear who understands where you're at and where you're trying to get to. And because I've worked so many nights, I know firsthand how sleep deprivation can impact you. It can literally make you feel like you're losing your marbles and you're going crazy. So, I understand, when parents come to me and say, I literally am so tired, I could cry, I get it. And I'm not going to say to you, suck it up and get on with it, because I know that it's hard. And it does make you feel like you're a failure. It does make you feel like you're not a great mum. But I always say this to parents, it's not hard because you're doing it wrong. It's hard because you're doing it right and you care about doing it right. So I hope that's answered your question.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Just one last thing. Actually, just two things. First thing is, for parents, maybe kind of in their third trimester, about to have their baby, and thinking about, infant sleep, and how do I kind of start instilling, good practice or routines in inverted commas for my newborn baby. Are there any tips you can give parents, either they've had, just had a baby or are about to have a baby, on how to kind of kick things off in the right way? Or is it just you bring your baby home, you figure your baby out, you make, a few bloopers, few errors, but on the whole, you find your way through and you'll come through it. What's your advice there?
I think it's kind of somewhere between the two. So I think it's really important as mums that we give ourselves time to adjust and recover from the birth, because even if it's a very straightforward, easy, non-complicated birth, it's still an adjustment. You left home when you were pregnant, a single, not single, but a person, and you come back a mother. Your whole identity has changed. You have to get to know this person and this person has to get to know you. So for me, I would always say, take it easy on yourself, allow yourself to get to know your child and make notes. And when I say make notes, what I mean by that is that I'm addicted to my smartphone. I can run my whole business from it. I can talk to my friends from it. And when I'm working with clients, from the second I arrive to the minute I leave, I'm making note of what I see. So if it's 9:10 and baby's falling asleep, I'm writing that down. If it's 9:05 and baby's kind of wriggling and making a weird noise and I don't know what that means, I'm writing it down. The reason why I do that is because in the moment, it makes no sense to me. But when I look back over a period of days, you start to notice that certain things happen at certain times. And even though you don't know what those things mean, because they're happening at certain times, it might give you a clue. So for example, you might find that at 8:30 in the evening, your baby gets really, really irritable and fractious and you don't know why. You fed them, they've had a bath, whatever. But over a period of nights, you start to realize that they're always getting fractious at this same time. And it's because their bowels need emptying, whatever. So I often find that we are experts in our children, but we don't realize it because we see the things that we see all the time. We just don't know what they mean. So if you're making a note of what you're seeing and you can go back to it and look at it and you can be like, they did that at that time on Monday, they did that at that time on Tuesday. Oh my God, they're hungry. So you'll often find that days later, what you've made note of makes perfect sense. But in the moment, it means absolutely nothing. So I always say, make a note of what you're seeing and when you're seeing it, because in the moment, it makes no sense. But when you look back days later, it will click. And nobody knows your baby better than you. Even if you've only been for a mum for one day, nobody knows your baby better than you.
Perfect. And the last thing is, for those people who don't know you, I mean, goodness, who wouldn't know you, but for those who don't, where can they find you online? So websites, social media handles, where can we find you?
So I'm on Instagram at charmaine.walters and my website is soundlysleeping.co.uk. So that's just
soundlysleeping.co.uk and Charmaine Walters.
Yeah, Charmaine.Walters on Instagram. But if you go to Lorna, if you follow Lorna, I'm in her following list. We follow each other, so you'll find me.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, before we shoot off, any last questions, folks? No?
No.
All right, okay. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, one more.
Oh, Cleopatra's got one. What's your question, Cleo? Can you explain tension release again? Okay, so when your babies cry, there are two ways in which they cry. They often cry to communicate, but when it comes to sleep, I find that they're either increasing in tension, so they're crying to let us know something is up, or they're releasing tension, which means they're actually getting rid of any extra energy with the intention of falling asleep. You'll know the difference because a tension increasing cry will sound like, and it will get more and more and more intense the more that they cry. Whereas a tension releasing cry will start off quite high pitched and insistent, but the more they cry, the more it will kind of diminish in its intensity. So they'll start off like, so eventually they're just like, ugh. So that's the difference between the two. So if you find that your child is crying and the intensity is increasing, that is not a sign that they're going to fall asleep. It's usually a sign that there's something wrong. They're either in pain or they've got a need that needs to be met. If they're crying as intense, but it diminishes as time goes on to the point where it's almost a whisper, that usually means that they're just crying as a way to just kind of get rid of that extra energy. Because as we go through our day, we take food in, energy in, and we expend it. And often if we haven't expended all the energy that we need before we go to sleep, it can be really hard for us to fall asleep, and our babies are no different. So for us, we might run around, we might stay up for longer. For babies, they'll just cry and fuss and whinge, and you'll often be able to tell. But we're mums, you know when your baby's crying and there's something's up, and you know when your baby's crying and they're actually winding down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Cleo, can you see that?
Yeah, she did.
See, thank you. Makes sense. Does this at bedtime before I feed her, but not at any other feed. And it makes so much sense now. Great. Brilliant. And same with toddlers. I mean, again, back to the grandkids.
Oh, yes.
So what I do, you know, I make sure
they're worse with it.
a silly time. Yeah, I have a silly time to shake off some of that energy. And I have a little kind of timer and have a real silly dance around, shake it all off.
Or rough play with daddy. You know, when daddy's throwing him in the air and we're looking at him like, oh my God, that is a great way for kind of getting rid of that last energy. Jumping on the bed, running around in the garden. All of those things can be a really good way of helping them to get rid of that extra energy. But with babies, they can't do that. So they just cry.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Wonderful. All right, folks, if there are no other questions, obviously if something crops up, you can contact Charmaine via her Instagram page, charmaine.walters, and I'll also post her website in the group. So you can be in touch with Charmaine there, okay? Thank you for joining us. Great questions, folks, and really fantastic responses, Charmaine, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Let's stop on the record now. And Ibania, thank you. You're welcome.